Kia ora, Virgo. This is your reading for this big full moon in Sagittarius. That's actually happening today. It's the 14th here in Aotearoa. And so we're doing your reading. It's intuitive, it's tarot. Take what works for you and leave what doesn't. And thanks for joining me. So let's see what's happening, Virgo, at this time. That just popped out. So we've got death, transition, transformation. Yes, it seems to be a time of the year for that kind of thing, doesn't it? And we will go through and clarify as we do. We have the Justice card as well. Justice, there we have the scales, balancing things out. I mean, in the end, it's ultimately all about balance, isn't it? And trying to retain some of that in our lives. Okay, let's see, a couple more. Right, one more. See if we can get one more. So we've got death, we've got justice. We have the Prince of Discs, which is, well, I always think of Virgo. I always think of Earth signs. It's quite a Taurian card. Okay. We've sort of surpassed ourselves here a little bit, Virgo, I think, in terms of I'm going to work back to front, actually. I'm going to work from the last card here, which is the Three of Discs, a card of collaboration. It's building something new. It's utilizing resources. It's like a project manager of sorts. You could look at it like that. So we're moving through this sort of letting something go in order to create more balance. We're almost starting things again, is what I'm getting here. So, or starting something again. But I kind of think that you've been here before. Maybe it's a similar objective, similar situation, but you've been here before. I don't know what's going on out there, but there's a bit of activity. So yeah, all right, okay. So we'll start again. Starting again. There's something about starting again. Transition, transformation, letting something go. Obviously, as I said, we'll go through and clarify. Adjustment in the Thoth deck is justice. It's natural law, really. It's got nothing to do with anything else. There's a sort of nothing to do with deserving or being entitled or anything. It's just a natural rebalancing. This Prince of Discs, fertilizing microbes in the soil, doing things are developing under the surface. We don't necessarily see at this point. We don't necessarily see, but in the past we have, because there's some sort of lesson that I just get from these cards lined up. There's some kind of lesson, for want of a better word, that has been understood. And that in a way, it's not an overly personal understanding. It's more it's more collective understanding, Virgo. So it's not so much in the micro, it's actually in the macro. So that's kind of interesting, I think, because these are general readings, very general, intuitive tarot readings. But what I get from this, it's like there's a broader collection of people involved in here, is what I'm trying to get to. Can we clarify this transformative nature of death, please? Right. It may well be in a lot of relationships or in one particular relationship. If we bring it back down to a smaller size, if this makes sense, metaphor is the language of the day at the moment in my readings. So to clarify, on some level, death. Beautiful card. I mean, it really is a beautiful card. We have the Five of Wands, which is, sorry about the light, which is, it can be laying down boundaries. It's sort of banging up against something in order to see what that something is made of. You know, like sending out a sort of sonar. And so you can see where there are solid areas, you can see where there are gaps. It's kind of interesting. And it's in terms of your choices in relation to equality, equal giving and receiving. Here we see a balance, just as we see that in justice. This is reciprocal giving and receiving. So, Virgo, it could well be in regards to a relationship. Sometimes we need to delineate our boundaries in relationships. If that makes sense, in order to continue in a healthy way. You could say in a more balanced way. Right, so let's look at justice, please. I do think it is in relation to a relationship, and yet it started as like one big whole thing. We've got the Seven of Cups coming out to, I was going to say, to justify justice. This is a card of assessment. It's a card of having many opportunities or many options. But they are in cups. Some of them you don't know whether they'll fly, whether they'll take off. Some of them you're not sure whether it's your projection, your illusions that you see. And so you kind of got to run with the ball in order to see what the ball's made out of, don't you? Or see how fast you can run with it. In a lot of these readings, it's issues of perspective, and this assessment card of the Seven of Cups has been coming up a lot. Having many choices is a wonderful thing. But as I sort of started to say before, you know, we're not entitled to anything. We don't, you know, the use of deserve, that's not natural law, is it? No one deserves to be in a war zone. No one is entitled to, I don't know, like lord it over everyone else. There's just natural law as balance. And maybe you've got lots of options maybe at the moment, even if you are in a relationship, whatever it's about. Let's just get let's get one more for that justice and Seven of Cups. Virgo, feels very quiet. Yeah, in the end, we always come back to love, don't we? We get the Empress, ultimate in unconditional love. So Virgo, very expansive with your ability to work with others, actually, and to be flexible with others is what I'm getting. What do we got? Prince of Discs, slowly grinding away there, toiling in the soil, spreading the seeds. We get the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen of Discs, sitting high, benevolent, independent, obviously quite comfortable. Yeah, it's you know, it appears to be that people, I do often get that with Virgo, that other people are looking to you, other people are looking up to you. Yeah. Because I do think you're very good, very effective at self-care. Anyway, let's look. This is a strange feeling to this reading. Maybe it's just me. Strange feeling. Limitations. 8 of Swords. Self-limitation in a nutshell. Why? There seemed to be everything quite nicely on hand here. But at the same time, we've got another 7, the 7 of Wands. Are we standing on firm ground? It does feel like a repeat. Something's repeating here. Six of Cups. This is memories of childhood. This is children offering unconditionally to each other just for the sheer joy of it, not for any other reasons. And the 7, you know, the 7 of Wands, we do feel the need to stand up for our integrity or our principles. But in doing that, like often the figure in these cards has a missing shoe, or they're standing on really uneven ground. You know, it's about having a strong personal foundation, isn't it? From which you can express your beliefs, your integrity, whatever you feel you need to express. In the same breath, we pick our battles. Some things are just sort of so pointless. They're just sort of more about our ego than anything else. You know what I mean? So we pick that, ideally. Yeah, this is very confusing. 10 of Wands. It's like a build-up of weight, of responsibility, of obligation that is at the end of the line, you know. So we release that. It's the end of that cycle. What do we get? We've got the Ace of Pentacles, a card of abundance, because there's a lot more room to be able to accept opportunity when we're not laden down with other obligations, or, you know. Three of Discs at the end of this reading, which I started with because it felt like a repeat of something that you've experienced before. I do believe that there's a lot of men in here. I mean, I'm pulling out knights and princes and putting them back in, because it's just too many. There's too many personalities. There's actually too many men, is what I get. And, you know, look, take what resonates and what doesn't. There's a lot of men. There is, in the Virgo, a repeating element that has been worked upon. I do see that. But there are elements of that that are still lingering because, as I said at the beginning, this is like you've been through this before and you're dealing with it again. You know, it's like when you think you've been through this, blah, 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 or whatever kind of thing it is, but you feel like you've overcome something within yourself, and then you present, you know, and it's taken quite a long time, you know. And then you're presented with a kind of situation and you feel like you've just repeated it again, like in the way that you've dealt with it. So, all right, well, King of Pentacles. So we've got the King and Queen here. So I do think it's in terms of a relationship. Let's be specific. I do think it's about in terms of a relationship. Anyway, as I was saying, and then you get tripped up again, and then you find yourself in the same kind of going through the same thing, explaining the same things, trying to stand up, trying to be heard, actually, here. And if that, you know, if your voice isn't heard, coming back to this again, which is, you know, in a nutshell, it's self-limitation, but it's kind of like, how do I get over that ditch? I thought I did. Or that bridge that, cross the bridge, bridge the gap. Anywho, let us, yeah, so it's kind of like second time, second chapter, part 2. There's an element of repeat. There's a lot of men. I think there's a lot of, there's just, it's just very odd, Virgo. Then we get the 4 of Swords, so it's like time out, you know. Time out. Go and sit in the you know, in the comfortable chair and just relax for a little bit. Time out. Time out. I think a few months ago, some of the Virgo readings often had, well, going back the last 6 months, I don't really remember, but I do remember this, that a lot of the Virgo readings were in relation to men. Whether it's men, whether you're a man watching or you're non-binary, or whether you're a woman, it doesn't make any difference. A lot of gender's not really relevant here. A lot of the readings, as I'm saying, were about fathers, were about men, and your relationship with men. And I kind of get this here, but it is about a relationship. You know, the King and the Queen are here. We've got this card of choice, this mutuality, this sharing of emotional gifts. And we have the Six of Cups, stripped back purely from the heart, offerings. We have the Empress, mother love. I mean, this is unconditional. There are no conditions here, but there's something with the Virgo that is getting tripped up for the second time. And so it's kind of a mysterious reading, which a Virgo, whether it's something to do with the Hermit, the Hermit's journey, which is the Virgo. You know, it's interesting. So let's have a look at the Three of Discs here at the end, and we'll go through and get a Brian Farood, Pixie and Fairies. Get a little glimmer, something. Right, so we've got the Three of Discs, which is about collaborative efforts, building new foundations. So it's a new project, it's a new creation. To clarify that, we again have to go back. There's something about, we know time's not linear, but for the human, the 24-hour clock is a guide, right? Of sorts, or that's the context of how we understand time. So again, we have to go back. We're going back to this, a decision that was made, not in haste. Two of Discs, it was made with great consideration, with a lot of activity and movement happening around. In the vicinity, a decision was made. What do we see in the Three, Virgo? In the Two, we make a choice. Choices are the most powerful thing. Choices are our power. And so they're loaded. Loaded so much sometimes that we become paralyzed. We become paralyzed when we're presented here with so many options. We've got so many options, but actually choice is our power point as individuals. So we had a decision here and we moved into an understanding something, a group effort, a collective effort to build a strong foundation. The Threes are all about understanding and actually that decision that was made coming into a physical form, Just one more for that, please. That brings you to the Six of Swords, to a calmer place. There's an understanding of that. But there's just something underlying going on here, which I don't quite get. Anywho, let's just get a Brian Froud, Pixie and Fairy card. It's getting a bit late in the day now. The light's dimming. Pixie and Fairy card. Yeah, this is in terms of relationship. But it's also in terms of your relationship with yourself. As I said earlier, you are good, I think, adept, vigilant at self-care. We have unity, this beautiful, what would you say, cosseted light, ready to sort of divide and be propelled outwards. I think that's beautiful. Just one more, please. Pixie and Fairy card. A lovely Virgo. Or maybe we don't need one. Maybe that's really what it is. unity within and unity without. On the outer and on the inner, micro to macro. It's like what's chapter 3 going to be like is when you, this is what I get, is when you finally release that. And I would say 150 points to you if you can totally clear that, any self-limitation out of your mind, out of your life, because that's a big work in progress and a really big achievement, Virgo. So I've got these very simple new cards, and strangely I got them and then on an impulse, and then I forgot that I had them, and then I remembered. Brain fog. And they're really simple, succinct. They're about rocks, they're about crystals, and the 4 directions. They're very uncosmic, and I like that because I like rocks. Let's get something for lovely Virgos who are watching. Just one, please. Thank you. Oh, this is one of my favourite stones, actually. This is peridot. Peridot. It's a beautiful green stone. Well-being, Virgo. Attracting money. Good luck charm. And healing heartbreak. Peridot. I love that. I used to have a ring. Got lost along the way. Beautiful card, Virgo. You know, some heartbreak, you know, it just becomes part of our patchwork quilt, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Now, let's get an art oracle card. I just see a, you know, actually I've been doing some artwork on that vein, Sacred Hearts, that have all these little, some of them are little stitched hearts, you know. You see a heart with many little darns and stitches. I love that. Okay, Virgo. Let's get something interesting. Well, I think we all know this fellow. The Art Oracle, looking at life, art and inspiration. For you, Virgo, we get Andy Warhol, silver screen. Right, eat dessert before dinner. Well, I guess you can if you're Andy. Give your 15 minutes some time. It might take a bit longer than 15 minutes. Wanting can be better than having. Now that is a definite. Wanting is often a lot better than having. It's the anticipation, isn't it? So on that note, thanks for joining me. This is kind of an odd sort of reading, Virgo, but I hope you got something out of it. And yeah, take good care. Enjoy this beautiful moon. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the new moon. Ka kite, bye. Cheery.